Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to the PlugTalkSports live show. This is episode 240, and we have a very, very special show in store for you. We have two faces here that you guys usually don't see on every Monday night. They are our guests. We've got Alex Donno, Locked On Canes, and we've got Javier Rivero. Javier, I got to ask, how long have you been a season ticket holder for the Miami Hurricanes?
Just a few years, since 1986.
Wow. 19. So with these two guys, it's going to be fun. We got an all Canes episode today. Of course, we got Jonka Don't Stop. We've got myself, Danny Torres. How are you gentlemen doing?
Amazing.
Couldn't be better. We're so close to football being back.
Yeah.
Finally.
I'm getting a little tired of watching preseason NFL football. I want the real thing.
Yeah, after watching the Dolphins the other day, just stink up the joint. I'm like, all right, just get me college football, get me the NFL regular season, get me out of here.
So let's start with the biggest question, I would say, overall. How are you guys feeling about this team heading into this season?
Kick us off, Donno.
Well, so I really I feel that Mario Cristobal has gotten this thing to the point where it's become a well-oiled machine, just with the way that he's recruited out of high school, with the impact transfer portal additions he's made year over year. I think, we used to say this, and Javier, being a season ticket holder since 1986, knows this better than anybody. Didn't we always used to say that when you lose some good players to the NFL, Miami doesn't rebuild, they reload? That was always our slogan. We forgot about that slogan for about 20 years, but I think we're getting back to that now, because I look at certain areas of the team, like, you lost a couple of generational defensive ends with Bain and Mesidor, and yet I think the defensive line is still going to be a strength of this team coming up. I've been talking about this a lot on Locked On Canes recently with, how well Damon Wilson is doing with his transition from playing at a high level in the SEC now to Miami. Marquise Lightfoot, I think, has just really attacked the offseason with the way he's added size. Armando Blunt has been doing really well. They have some depth there. The defensive tackles should be awesome. They were able to keep their top two guys from last year with Ahmad Moten Sr. And with Justin Scott. I think the offensive line is going to be a pleasant surprise. I know that's, been an area of question marks for a lot of people with how many guys, including Cece Maui-Noa and Markel Bell, that they lost from last year's team. But I look at experienced veterans like Matt McCoy, who, I project is probably the right tackle starter this year, and Samson Okunlola, fourth-year former five-star recruit, who I expect to probably be the starting left tackle, and then, young guns who are looking great early, like Jackson Cantwell and Ben Congdon. We know Miami's loaded at the skill positions. I think Darian Mensah was an incredible addition at quarterback, and I think he's going to fit like a glove here. So, I think that this year's team has a chance to do similar things to what last year's team did. Hopefully it's an ACC championship this year, fellas, which is something we've never been able to celebrate before. Obviously, we all want a national championship, so hopefully that's in the cards as well. But I'd start with an ACC championship. I want to get that this year.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, for me, looking at it from a fan's perspective, right? The biggest concern for me is the offensive line, losing everybody out there and now a new bunch coming in. But I really think I like the start of our schedule. It gives us a few games at the beginning to really get that offensive line ready for the big opponents, for that Clemson game that's coming up. I think, after the first 3 or 4 games, we're going to be able to really clean up some of the things that we know that will occur, right? The offensive holding, the offsides, these things. It'll clean it up. And by that Clemson game, I think we're going to be a well-oiled machine. And Donno, I really think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to win the ACC this year and get out there. I was at the only ACC championship game that they made against Clemson, and that was horrible.
That was not fun.
It was not fun whatsoever. But, listen, last year was such a magical year, and it was, we rode the high all through that playoff, and I just can't wait for game one. We're already having a watch party at the house, and then the first home game, it's going to be rocking at the Rock.
Jonka?
I might okay. Me during this whole offseason and just the ending of how last season ended up, I'm already discombobulated. There's too much star power on the show already. I'm excited and nervous at the same time. I was disappointed at how the national championship ended up being, because I don't know if Donno or Javier knows, I've never been to a UM game where we've lost. So I feel like because I didn't get to go to that game, I feel like I kind of ruined our chances. But
I'm fine blaming you.
Yeah, me too.
Let's not blame Carson Beck for kind of throwing into triple coverage, but that's aside from the point. Yeah, I would say kind of on Javier's side, where I think the offensive line is the only issue I have with the entire team, but the issue is not as big as I'm gonna make it out to be, because Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal have an incredible team, and their coaching is unlike anything else I've ever seen. So I'm not too concerned with it. Like you said, the first couple games are going to be a little bit of a cakewalk. Stanford might be a little bit of a trap game, because they're going to come out with everything they have to like upset us that first week. So aside from that, I think what I'm expecting from this team, honestly, Daniel, I think I already told you, it's what the opposition is going to want from Miami. Miami's going to say, pick your poison. Do you want to lose by the running game, or do you want to lose by the wide receiver room? It's pick your poison. And if not, you're going to have to stop Darian Mensah from taking a hit himself. Hey.
Jonka, I think Javier would like this. I just had to bring it up. Tell Javier about that curse that you think that there is.
Oh, it's right. So I say that there's this curse thing around ever since Jimmy Johnson, that the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Hurricanes are like together on this curse, that until one of them wins, the other won't win. Until one wins, the other one will start winning. It's every year. Miami will have a good year. Oh, Dallas Cowboys will have a good year, but nothing will ever come out of it. Like it's very sporadic.
Jonka, I hope you're right, because I am a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. And, I tease my son, because my son is 20. He's with Danny. Danny and him grew up together. And he's a diehard fan of both teams as well. And I tease him. I'm like, I got to see the 90s. It was either the Canes or the Cowboys win a championship. But now it's been a while. So he's jonesing for one as well.
So we talked about ACC. They are the ACC favorites. I don't think that there's anyone that will stop Miami in the ACC. But do you guys think that there is a team out there, or what team will face Miami or give Miami that closest competition to win the ACC?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing obviously that stands out about the ACC schedule is Miami does not have to play either of the teams that beat them last year,
Yeah.
who I also think are the second and third best teams in the conference, in my opinion, SMU and Louisville. So I mean, you could see one of them potentially in the ACC championship game, but you won't see them in the regular season. So that's that's all mathematical, the way that they divide the schedule up. I don't think anyone did that on purpose, but that's the way it is. So with that said, I am definitely going to have a lot of butterflies heading into the Clemson game in Death Valley. We'll see how Clemson looks for their first month of the season, because I definitely don't expect Clemson to be like a real national powerhouse this year. I have a lot of doubts about their quarterbacking with Chris Vizina. I think if Dabo wasn't so stubborn, he would have gone out and gotten someone in the portal, but he made a point not to. He did portal in some players, but he made a point not to portal in a quarterback because he just didn't want to do it that way. But with that said, Clemson is still going to have talent. They're going to have, I think, a very good defense. They're going to have good players at both lines of scrimmage. So I don't think they're going to be a pushover. And Death Valley is a tough place to play. So that's obviously one that concerns you. And I know we're talking ACC games, so if anybody's like, how come they're not talking about Notre Dame? We know that's the hardest game. There's no question. It's just not a conference game. So really, like outside of Clemson, it's like, Miami could lose any game if they are their own worst enemy. You just have to hope that doesn't happen, right? Like, you have no excuses. I know it's a rivalry game, but there's no reason why you should lose to Florida State at home, given the state of that program. Be no excuse to lose to North Carolina. I know it's a road game. That program is a dumpster fire. Wake Forest had a pretty good year last year, but they don't have the talent. Like, there's no excuse to lose to them, or even to Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh, who you beat them both up last year. You played them at home both this year. So it's like, listen, man, I'm not guaranteeing Miami wins every one of those games. I believe they will, and I believe they can. But just, we've learned this 20-some years in the ACC. We've learned that, Miami in the past can be their own worst enemy. As long as they shake that, they should be all right in conference.
Yeah, I completely agree with Donno. And having been there to so many games, and I mean, having watched us games that were favored by 2 touchdowns and find a way to lose, whether it be penalties or whatnot. But I think, I've seen it now. I see a different Mario, right? He is so locked in, right? And I don't think he's going to let his team, fall the way they did last year to Louisville, where they had the chance, even though all those turnovers, they were in it to the end, right? SMU, overtime. I don't think they lose those games this year. I think the leadership steps up even more. And yes, we lost a lot with Ruben Bain and Messidor, but I think we see a different Miami team that got that taste going through the playoffs. Like, let's be honest. We went into Texas A&M and we didn't know what to expect. We barely got into the playoffs. We didn't know what to expect. We win that game.
Yeah.
We go to Ohio State in Dallas. We crush that. We beat Ole Miss. Let's be honest. A lot of us didn't have the faith that we can do that, right? We hoped, but it wasn't there. Going into this year, I see completely different, and I'm with Donno. Clemson will be tough, right? But there is no reason that the Canes can't win that game and go undefeated in the ACC. And we will beat Notre Dame. I don't care about South Bend.
Like that.
I'm telling you, this is my guy. Javier is my guy. He comes for real, straight up. He doesn't care. He doesn't play. Yeah, I mean, I'm so tired of everyone always hyping up. Look, they're not a bad team, but it's like every year, specifically the committee hyping up Notre Dame, and then it just ends up being nothing. I do think that Miami has a very good chance to go in there and beat the Irish once again.
Yeah, listen, if I wanted to say something about the Irish, I'd probably get removed from the show right now. So I'm going to hold off from any obscenities today. But South Bend is not my priority at this point. I think this team should just take, if anybody doesn't know, I'm a Patriots guy, but take the Belichick approach and just do. We're focused on Stanford, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. After Stanford, you move on to FAMU, and one game at a time. You cannot look forward to any of these games. I think this is one of the best opportunities, not because of just how the team is, but the landscape of college football, and I guess like how the teams are constructed. I'm not threatened by Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ohio State. I think they're overrated. Texas, I'm not a big believer in Arch Manning. I think just like Trinidad, Ole Miss right now with no Lane Kiffin, let's see how they look. They lost a lot of talent. I just think this is like Miami's really good shot on getting back to the playoffs, making a run, and possibly winning the whole thing. Now, I'm not saying they are going to do that. I would love it. But like we said at the beginning of the show, just win the ACC championship game. But this is a message to Mario. Yes, Mario, if you ever see this, Daniel, clip this. I'm going to need you for every team. I don't care about sports camaraderie or respect. Step on their throats when you have the chance to step on their throats, and don't let them breathe. The Georgia Tech game literally took my soul out. Even though Don Chaney had his elbow down, let's get this right. The safety against Clemson it wasn't called a safety, and the same thing against Florida State. The ACC has been screwing us. Do not give them the opportunity to screw us again. The SMU game when they gave Lightfoot that the roughing the passer call, bogus. That literally gave them first down. No more. Blow them out by 50. We had the team to blow each of these teams by 50. Notre Dame does not have the talent. I don't care about Leonard Moore. I think he's a bit overrated. We're going to blow him out by 50. Malachi Tony, Barkate, Mingo, Moore, whoever you want, Lofton, anybody, please. Just step on their throats and don't let them breathe. I don't care if they die. Let them die. We keep on moving. Please.
So Chaka, you talk about penalties and all of this stuff. So really quick. So I'm sure you guys remember the national championship against Ohio State, the pass interference.
You had to remind me.
Oh, well, listen. So just to give you a heads up, I was married on that day. So at our reception, me and my friends, we're watching the national championship.
Oh, I think he froze.
Terry Porter just threw a flag on his.
This was getting good.
He got married, and then that's it. His life ended.
Donno, I have to tell you, man. Look, Darian Mensah, phenomenal pickup. I'm not going to lie. But, and I told Janka, I would have loved the story, nothing more than the storyline of getting Alberto Mendoza to transfer to Miami. I would have loved nothing more.
I mean, as a backup, maybe. I don't know. He's maybe I'm wrong. We'll see how he does for Georgia Tech this year. I don't think he's anywhere near the quarterback Fernando was. His famous last words, right? He's going to end up winning a Heisman, and someone's going to clip me saying this right now. But I just don't think he's in that stratosphere. Nor do I think he's in Darian Mensah's stratosphere.
Yeah.
So story, and you know what? I think getting Mensah is a pretty good storyline, right? Because you took him from Manny Diaz, and Duke visits Miami this year. It's homecoming. So I think we're doing all right from storyline standpoints.
Listen, Donna, here on the show, I don't know if you know, we don't address that significant person. We address him as Danny Maez.
Oh, fair. Yeah, you know what? I'll ride with you on that. I apologize for saying the name.
Oh, he's back. There we go.
There we go.
So, Javier, the last thing we heard was you got married, and then that was it.
Yeah. So she must have put a something on it to happen that, right? But yeah. So that was the story. We got married. She was upset that we are watching the game and they're out there dancing and I'm not celebrating the wedding. But you know what? Hey, it all worked out. We're still married today.
There you go.
Hey, that's good. That's good. Good.
We were just talking about. I was telling Donno, and I told you the other day, Javier, that I would have loved the storyline of getting Alberto Mendoza to come be the QB for Miami. But I agree. I agree with Donno. Yeah, Mensa. You can't deny that. I mean, that was a phenomenal pickup, and they faced Manny Diaz and Duke this year. So that storyline in itself is phenomenal. Uh, what specifically about Mensa's game do you guys think is going to take Miami to that next level? I mean, we've had Cam Ward, Carson Beck, but now with Mensa, what do you think takes it to the next level?
I think Mensa he's a complete quarterback. I view him as like he combines the best parts of Ward with the best parts of Beck. And in saying that, I'm not I'm not intending to say like he's better for sure than both of them, but I think just characteristics wise, I think he has the ability to attack downfield, which obviously was a major strength of Cam Ward, along with athleticism and extending plays, which of course was a major strength of Cam Ward. But I think Mensa also sees the entire field and is willing, when appropriate, to take checkdowns, go through his progressions a little bit more in the way of Beck. Like he's not as much of a constant headhunter as Cam Ward, which obviously it worked out very well for Ward at Miami. But I think I look at Mensa as he's taking some of the best traits of both of them. I think he's got a great personality, in terms of leadership and being very personal. Anytime you step onto a new team for one season, it's a big adjustment. Like he obviously was successful in already making that adjustment at Duke last year. I think the adjustment's going really well for him at Miami, and he's practiced very well from what I've been able to see and from what I've been able to hear. And he has an advantage that Beck did not have last year, and that's being fully available for spring, to be able to get that head start physically. So I think he's going to be, and I'm going to be putting out a YouTube short about this. I think he's going to be right there when it comes to contending for a Heisman. Now, obviously, we care more about the team goals than the individual goals, but I think he's going to have that type of season.
Yeah, so, Donald says it best about Mensa, and I'm going to take it to a different level, right? How many times did we say if the Canes had a defense when Cam Ward was here, we would have been national champions, right? Yeah. We said that over and over again. And I think now we've got both things. We've got an athletic quarterback that can move in the pocket, can make things happen with his leg, his arm, whatever it is, but he's also got a defense. To Chaka's point, we can get up by 14, 17 points, put the foot down on the pedal there. I'm not going to go as deep as Chaka went, but, we can keep them down and know that our defense is going to come up with the stops that we need, right? I think this is also a big year. Donno, you tell me if I'm wrong. I think we got a chance to develop some of our younger players behind them, like Luke Nickel, right? And get him some playing time and see if he's the quarterback of the future as well. Because, we've got to develop some of our guys. I mean, we've got Luke, we've got Coleman, we've got a 5-star coming in next year. Like, I love what Donno said earlier, reminded me back of the 80s and the 90s. We are reloading now at the U. And I think that's something that we need to do. So Mensa's going to be great. He's going to be up there statistically, but I think we've got the best of both worlds. We can run the ball. We can throw, maybe Elijah Lofton steps up and has a big year because he's going to be open. We've got a lot of wide receivers and playmakers out there. So I think the sky's the limit for Mensa this year, and I definitely think he's going to be in New York.
How much, so coming off the national championship, I mean, how much expectations or pressure do you think is on Mensa? I mean, it has to be a lot.
I think it's inevitable. I think he is pretty well grounded in terms of, obviously his even the way he exited Duke and went to Miami he was like the top story in sports, certainly in college sports for a hot second. And I think he was able to block that stuff out. I don't think that affected him. It wasn't the first time he's moved teams, so there was, a little bit of it from Tulane to Duke, and then it was really amplified from Duke to Miami. And, I think, and Mensah spoke about this when he spoke with the media last week. Obviously all these guys are on social media, so it's impossible to avoid any of what, the outsiders are saying and stuff. But I think that, Mario helps give these guys kind of the tools and the mentality to sort of stay grounded and to not read your own headlines too much, good or bad, and to block it out. I know that they did a really good job of this last year, just to sort of keep what happens in-house, that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what Paul Feinbaum is saying or what any of the four of us are saying, and whoever else that they've got to kind of keep, as Mario says, keep the main thing, and focus on that. And I'd like to think that, Mensah knew what he was signing up for, right? I mean, he was in a very good financial situation already at Duke, and he, was in a position to put up really big numbers last year, although the team had a ceiling, and that was, they still lost 5 games even with the season he had last year. So I think he knew that you go to Miami, for a team that just contended for a national championship, that there's going to be a lot of potential distractions, but you can't allow those things to be distractions.
Yeah, listen, Donno knows it best, right? Donno's more in the trenches than I am. But, from what you could see, he's got a good head on his shoulder. I think he's got good teammates around him as well that is going to help keep him level-headed and maintain that focus that is needed. And I for sure know that Mario isn't going to let him get off tracks either and let it get to his head. I think this entire team is focused on one thing only, and that's Stanford Week 1 and going then onward.
I have to ask you guys, so hypothetically, and I had been thinking about this, hypothetically, let's say Miami loses to Clemson or Notre Dame. Do they still get in? I think they will, but do you guys think they still get into the playoff with 2 losses?
I think that's a crapshoot. Because because you in the ACC, it really is a roll of the dice. Now, if you lose 2 games but you still win an ACC championship, then you're in, because that's now an auto bid. It wasn't last year. That's why Duke didn't get in, but they've made it an auto bid. But if you lose 2 games, you don't win your conference, then honestly, there's so many variables. It really depends on how many losses certain SEC teams and Big Ten teams have, because they're not going to go out of their way to put an ACC team in the playoffs, even if it is Miami. I think, Miami obviously is a bigger brand than most of the other ACC schools, but I still think it's, if you're SEC or Big Ten, 10-2 guarantees you a playoff spot. ACC, it's like, how is the committee feeling that morning after they drink their coffee? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, Donno's right. I mean, look, if we lose those 2 games, but still the ACC championship and win it, we're in, right? Which I can't see us not going to the ACC championship. If we lose to Clemson and win all of our others, we should be in that ACC championship game, right? And I think at that point we win and then we're in.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to lose to Clemson. I think we beat Clemson by whatever the spread is right now, but I think by 17, I don't think they can stop our offense. A 31-14 game, I can see that happening. But I'm not worried about Clemson. I'm just more worried about Notre Dame, because ranking wise, I think both of the teams will arrive to that game undefeated, and then that will have a lot of implications on the rankings. But even if we lose that game, it's considered a non-conference game. So as long as we handle our ACC business, that's all fine and dandy with me. So I hate losing to Notre Dame because I hate them, but I'm not too concerned on the outcome of that game than it is the Clemson game. I think the Clemson game is way more important in the grand scheme of things. But I'm not too worried. I think this team's going to do great.
I have to bring this up. Jonka and I, what was it, like a week ago? We were coming back from vacation. It was like a week ago. We were on the whole car ride back. It was like an hour car ride. Whole hour back, we were actually listening to Locked On ACC, and which was a phenomenal episode. I'll tell you the episode now, but it was about should Miami leave the ACC? If they win the ACC this year, do you think that they should leave the conference and go join another?
I mean, I think whether or not they win the ACC, I think they should leave if they can. I wish it was simple, because you obviously have to figure out a way to buy yourself out of the ACC because it's not free. Are you able to foot that bill entirely in-house? Would your next conference help you offset that price? And do you have a guaranteed bid from another conference? We can only speculate, right? I mean, there's been a lot of buzz that the Big Ten would be interested in Miami. They're looking to really make their footprint nationwide, right? I mean, right now they have schools from Washington State to New Jersey, but they don't have anything in Florida. So that might be. I don't really feel as confident in being wanted by the SEC, because I know the SEC already has, a footprint in Florida for what that's worth. And I know a lot of SEC members do not want to, they already recruit against Miami, but SEC members, when they recruit South Florida households, they have the advantage of saying, well, yes, I know you grew up watching Miami or whatever, but don't you want to play in the SEC? And that's a pretty effective recruiting pitch. It doesn't work on everybody, but it works on a lot of players. And if Miami is in the SEC, you lose that recruiting pitch completely. So I think that's a factor. I'm not really a fan of Miami staying in the ACC long term, because the ACC they're locked into a terrible TV contract for another 10 years that I don't foresee them being able to change the terms of that contract with ESPN, because ESPN has no incentive to pay them more just because they want to. So it was a really bad deal that the ACC signed. And to me, there are just too many members of the ACC that do not have real ambitions. Like, you get, weighed down by the Boston colleges of the world.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I guess Stanford maybe looks like they're trying. Cal is definitely trying, but you've got Syracuse is, I think, kind of a mess, even though they're pretty high on Fran Brown. Like, the program just doesn't have money. So I feel like the ACC, to me, it's an okay conference, but it's not elite, and you're going to be at a financial disadvantage if you stay there forever.
Javier, you told me the other day that you wanted Miami to stay in the ACC.
Yeah, and Danny, since we've spoken, I've thought about it more, and if I remember correctly, Donno helped me out here. Real reason that the Canes joined the ACC was for basketball. Lift the basketball program.
To do with it. Yeah. Right? Basketball and academics, because the ACC is a very good academic conference, and that was Donna Shalala. That was very important to her. She was the president at the time. Yeah, and now I see it. Think about being in a Big Ten or an SEC. The games that would be played here at the Hard Rock, and we know that this city, if they do one thing, is they get up for big games. And the noise level, that Notre Dame game last year was the loudest that I've heard it in that stadium. Obviously, I'm from the Orange Bowl, and nothing was like the Orange Bowl. But that Hard Rock week 1 last year was amazing. So, you bring in a Michigan to play here. Who would not love to go to that? A Penn State. All of these games, what that would do for this city and the crowds there, it would be amazing. Because, look, Pitt comes in, we may get 55,000 people. Now, those are loyal 55,000 that are out there, but it's not like having 80,000 out there, right? There's a big, big difference.
I'll tell you what, man, And I told Jonka, if Miami were to join, let's say, the SEC, and I know, Donno, you just gave your reasons why you didn't want them to join the SEC, but, man, just imagining Florida every year, Georgia, Alabama. Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, I would love to be in the SEC. I just don't think the SEC – I don't think Miami is their priority, like, from their side.
Jonka?
Yeah. I would love to join the SEC just for the simple fact of I'm thinking of the team, like the traveling wouldn't have to be no more Northeast in Syracuse, Stanford, California. You're just in the Southeast. The traveling would be held to a very minimal standard. We get to play Florida. You can probably make a contract with Florida State if they were to join too somehow. I would love to play Georgia. I would love to play Mizzou, Missouri. For some reason, they're always ranked. Ole Miss every year. Alabama. We finally get back again for Saban, but he's not there anymore. So, but still, just to give it to Kellen DeBoer, it would be nice. Yeah, but SEC all the way. I'm already getting tired of the ACC, as you can already tell.
Let's talk about the offense. So we talked about some concerns in the offensive line. I mean, stylistically, how do you think this offense is going to look in 2026?
I mean, I think you may see more RPO with Mensah in the offense. I think you are going to see probably a higher percentage of deep balls. You know, it's not to say that Carson Beck never did it, but it dropped off certainly from Cam Ward to Carson Beck. One thing I don't think has changed is I think the foundation of this team is going to be running the football. I think that's always going to be their number one priority in terms of like opening things up to pass the football by running the football. And I think there are advantages to it. It's a big part of Mario Cristobal's philosophy, but also when you can run the football effectively, it really physically and mentally drains the opponent. And I think it has, it's why you were mentioning earlier, both of you, Jonka and Daniel, about, wanting to put the foot on the throat. You're going to have opportunities to do that. If you're able to run the football and physically and mentally wear out the defense. And why wouldn't you, right? When you've got, people like Fletcher and Pringle, who's doing really well, and Brown and Lyle and Mallory. So I don't think that part of it's going to change. And I think that's got to be pretty attractive for Mensah because it's going to take some pressure off of him. Right. I mean, as the QB1 for a big program, you're always going to have pressure. But if you can move the football at will and pick up first downs on the ground, it's going to make his life a lot easier.
Absolutely. Well, and think about, one of the smartest things that Mario did was bringing Cooper along with Darian Mensah, right? And how comfortable he is with Cooper already. And then you got Malachi in the slot. You got Josiah Moore. Like you are loaded on the offensive side. I think we start off, again, this is my opinion, heavy with the run, get the offensive line used to blocking and then setting up the pass with the run and maybe some play action passing as well. If you were at the spring game, I know Donno you were because I saw you at the spring game. Mensah can throw the deep ball and he can throw it nice to Cooper. I think this offense, if we don't score in the 40s just about every game, that might be a disappointment, right? Or it may be a testament to what Chaka's saying that we didn't put the foot on the throat there because we should be scoring 40 a game with that offense that we have and the defense getting us off the field. I sound like such a homer on this podcast.
So do I. So do we all.
I know. I'm actually very excited for next year in 2027. As me being a Columbus guy, I cannot wait to see Amir Sears. And you imagine if they just line them up, if they put him on wide receiver, they line them up. Imagine just Tony and Amir Sears. I mean, that is chef's kiss beautiful. But Do you think, and I don't think he's this type of guy, but do you think that Malachi Tony could have a sophomore slump?
It's something that has crossed my mind because it's an inevitable thought to have. But
Yeah.
we're not going to know till we know. But I don't have any reason to believe that's going to happen. Just based on the way he's been working. I think you're more likely to have a sophomore slump. And by you, I don't mean Tony specifically. I mean anybody. It's more likely to happen to you if you get complacent and if you think, oh, like I'm so good, maybe I don't have to work as hard as I did to become a true freshman contributor. That's not in Tony's DNA. He is a special kind of person where he really devotes his life to his craft. I think it's a very rare thing, for him to consistently be at the facility at 5 a.m. Every day. He works into the evening hours. I'm not exactly sure when or for how long he sleeps. If I don't get my 8 hours, I'm a little cranky. I don't function well. That doesn't seem to be an issue for him. And he's put on some size, which I think is important for the potential wear and tear that comes with being such a focal point of the offense. So, I mean, it's going to be different the way defenses approach him because they've now had a full off season to study the tape and to come up with your best possible Malachi Tony plan. Obviously later in the year, teams could see, some tendencies with how he was used. It didn't really seem to help very much because Tony's level never dropped off. I guess the one thing was later in the year and in the playoffs, the gadget plays didn't work as well, but the meat and potatoes stuff was still fine. So it's like, even if you kind of took away some of the end arounds and the double passes, Tony was still able to affect the games and be dominant, which I think is a good sign for him that he's not like a one-trick pony or anything like that. So, the defenses are going to find different plans for him. But then the problem is if you plan for Tony, then that Barcade is going to kill you. And, Miami has other really good receivers that can hurt you and running backs that can catch the football. So, even if Tony's numbers were to dip a little bit, it's probably only going to be because he's getting even more attention than he got last year. But I'm not expecting a sophomore slump from him.
Yeah, Danny, that's a great question, man. And I think the biggest thing, it may not be a sophomore slump. He's going to have to adjust, right? Because defenses are going to adjust, and they're going to make him the priority of who they need to stop. And that's going to be Malachi. And he's going to have to adjust to that and find his way to get open. But the thing it's going to do is, and Donno was saying it, we have so many weapons that you can try and take Malachi away, and they're going to find somewhere else to go with the ball, whether it's run it or throw it to somebody else. We're going to have that opportunity. So, will his numbers be the same that they were last year? Maybe there's a dip, maybe there's not. But there's going to be plenty of people to pick up the slack, if he can't have that same type of production that he had last year. And I don't see it. I still think, I hear that in practice, he wants to be the first one out there to get the punt returns. He wants to compete for everything that's out there. So he's still going to have a big year.
Now, I got a question mostly for Donno, but I don't know how much Javier keeps up with recruiting. But Donno, if Miami were to somehow win it all, please God, how big of a recruiting storm could we possibly see? Does DJ Jacobs flip? Bryson Wright commit? Mason Johnson Cook? Mark Matthews? Could we see a complete, utter Category 5 go off in recruiting? And all of a sudden, the landscape of college football is now all eyes on Miami. And could we see chaos? That's my question.
It can't get much better than it already is in recruiting, but it can obviously get better if you win a national championship. I mean, they already, people don't realize how frequently it happens where they will have to turn certain players away that maybe want to come because they have to make their decisions on who fits the mentality and who fits football wise. But yeah, I mean, if Miami wins a natty, they're going to be turning a lot of really good players away. And then like, so there still could be some other players out there who will still kind of make their decisions based on, hey, like I could probably get on the field faster somewhere else. So it's not going to be like a complete, like it's not going to get to the point where you can literally have any player you want, because there's always going to be some players who make their decision more based on playing time and just style of coaching and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you mentioned a lot of names there who are players that Miami could still be looking to flip. And, you know, DJ Jacobs is at the very tippy top of my wish list, that the top defensive end, who I think has already been kind of wavering anyway, you know, whether he wants to be a Buckeye or whether he wants to be a Hurricane. So, I mean, if you win a natty, you're probably going to be flipping a few of those players. You might flip a couple of them even if you don't.
Yeah. Well, and also think about, I mean, we're in an era now that we didn't see before with the NIL also. You know, the NIL is very compelling to a lot of these kids. You know, look, we just got somebody that was on the Cleveland Browns roster is going back to play in LSU, you know, because he can probably make more money there. So, look, I love all of these that are, they're committed here, but until they're signed and are here, I don't really think about it too much, because you just never know who's going to flip. And Donno, you said it right. Now it's about playing time, and I can give you more money. Come play over here, start right away. And it's not like the old days where you had a second and a third stringer that you know was going to stay there and eventually start, right? That I can go somewhere else, get money, and play right away.
It's funny you bring that up, Javier, about Daquan Wright. He's now, I think, returning to. He's going to LSU with his old head coach, Lane Kiffin. Look, what's your opinion on these NFL rookies potentially returning to college?
If you're asking me specifically, I hate it. Right? I mean, I think it's ridiculous. You go to the NFL, you go through their camp, you go all of that. You can't make it there. You're going to be on a practice squad. Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to college and make more money than the 100 or 200 grand that I was going to be for being on a practice squad. You know, I think if you made the decision to go to the NFL, like the old days, right? Yes, I'm old school, guys. I'm sorry. But the old days, you go, that's it. You declare, you're done, right? But now you can go through a whole preseason camp and come back to college? That's ridiculous, my opinion.
I mean, I agree with you for the most part. You know, I don't know how we got here. Like, I don't know when these like local and regional judges like figured out they can do this. Like they can make whatever ruling they want to, and they can put out these temporary restraining orders, and they can set these precedents, and that's who I blame. I think I think the system in certain ways is broken when you have something like this happening. And Daquan Wright, he may be the first, he's not going to be the last. There's like 15 at least other players who were granted this TRO and are trying to do the same thing. He's just going to be the first domino to fall. So, you know, it's unfortunate, and we've known this for a long time. The NCAA has very little power to actually enforce, you know, their so-called rules. These judges have gotten pretty out of control. But one entity that I don't blame for this, because I see on social media a lot of anger towards LSU for, you know, potentially bringing Daquan Wright in, and he played for Lane at Ole Miss, so it makes sense for him to go there. But it's like, you know, I see people petitioning, LSU, they need to be removed from the SEC. The SEC needs to step in and sanction them. From the way that I look at it, there's a lot of people you can blame for this, but if LSU is going to do this legally, because these are the parameters we are all in now, as much as I love to hate on Lane Kiffin, I'm not going to blame Lane or LSU for this. Like, if you want to blame the judge, if you want to blame the NCAA, like, there's a number of different people to blame here. I'm not going to blame LSU, and I'll be fully transparent. Like, when I saw Daquan Wright, you know, a few days ago as a possible guy to return to college, as a Miami guy, I'm thinking, hey, like Miami could probably use a veteran tight end. So if this had gone Miami's way, it doesn't change the fact that I hate the fact that this is happening.
Yeah.
But when it comes to teams doing this legally, LSU are not the ones I would blame for this.
I mean, the way things are going, I can probably declare to go back to my middle school football team, to be honest with you. So,
knock over some 13-year-olds.
Javier, from all your wise years, I'll put it that way, all your wise years, from your perspective, and you've seen a lot of great Miami Hurricane teams, what sets apart this team from all the Miami Hurricanes teams that you've seen?
You know, that's a tough one to answer because we haven't seen them play yet, right? Other than spring ball, I haven't seen them play. And it's so tough to compare them to any of these old great teams that we had. I mean, it would be doing injustice to some of those teams, you know, to really say that. What I can say is what I see in this team is I see the hunger to go out there and compete and win. They may not be as talented as some of those teams that we had in the past because, like I said, our third stringers back in the day would have been starters in a lot of other schools. So I can't say that we have that same talent that we have. But, man, we've got a coach that wants to win so badly for this city and for his school that he will not let us down. And I truly, truly believe that. And he's assembled a good roster, very, very good roster, but we still have questions in the second team, right? And that's why I think, again, we do have to take these and get these big leads and get some of those young guys some reps and start getting them ready. But I can't compare them, Danny. I won't do that because, boy, those old teams, you know, you think of the names that have been here, it would be doing them injustice without seeing this team play a game yet. Ask me that after the Clemson game. Have me back on, and then we can talk.
Yeah, Javier's right. So I'm not gonna change anything he said. I'll just add one thing in terms of like comparing this team to, you know, some of the teams we remember from the glory days. Just the sheer physical size, because like a lot of the teams from the glory days were more built on speed and guys who were like maybe prototypically undersized but just made up for it. Whereas this team is kind of the opposite. It's a lot of guys who are like prototypically oversized but have this freakish athleticism where they're still able to play with speed despite being so big. Like I think the smallest offensive lineman that Miami currently has is, and he's really good, is S.J. Alofa-Tuli at 6'1", 190. If S.J. Alofa-Tuli, those same dimensions, 6'1", 190, was on like the 1991 team, he'd be one of the biggest offensive linemen. But it's like everybody else is 6'5", 6'6". They've got 2 6'8s on the team. I think Cantwell is 6'7.5". Congdon is 6'8". Like you're going to have somebody who's 6'8" playing guard, which is not something that was, you know, unheard of years ago. And you've got like a true freshman safety like J.J. Dunnigan come in already weighing 220, but fast as lightning. You know, in the old days, like a freshman safety would come in, he'd be like 200 and 190 trying to put on some weight. Like those days are over. And it's like there's no right or wrong way to do it because like Miami won 5 national championships with a lot of guys who weren't like nearly this big. But I just think this team is being constructed more like a prototypical SEC team from the glory days than like the old school Miami teams.
Jaka, hit him with one final question before we go into a rapid fire fun segment to close it off.
I don't know if you guys ever watched the Nevin Shapiro show. But
I've seen some clips.
There was a guest that I follow him. It's What the Dough. He's a super funny guy. They asked him a question: what would if Miami didn't accomplish what they needed to accomplish this year? If it's not winning the ACC, if it's not even making the playoffs or whatever it is, what would be the biggest reason Miami doesn't accomplish those I guess checkpoints?
I think the obvious factor would be really bad injury luck. And I'm very superstitious, so I hate to say the I word out loud. But no matter how deep you are, there's always players you just cannot afford to lose, right? So that's
right.
one. And then I guess I think the next factor would be, and you I don't expect this to be the case, hope it's not the case, but usually when teams that are talented enough to win their conference and compete for a championship, when they fall short of that, it usually is like a big culture flaw, right? I mean, you look at a few years ago, how did Florida State go from 13-1? They say 13-0. It was actually 13-1, but how did they go from 13-1 to 2-10? It wasn't all about talent, right? They were more talented than the majority of the teams that they lost to that following year, but there was just it was culture, complete chaos, which falls on coaching, it falls on the locker room, it falls on everybody. Again, I don't have any reason to think that would happen to Miami, but if there's any internal struggles that distract from what's going on the field, between that and the I word, that those are really about the only things I could come up with as to how this team could fall short.
Yeah, it hit the nail on the head. I'm just going to add one thing. I think when Miami has lost in the past, they've been their worst enemy, and it's either been penalties or turnovers. I think that those things right there could be a compelling, that would cause them to lose one or two games. But I think they fixed those quickly, right? We saw it after the SMU game. They had all of those turnovers, including in overtime, and they fixed it and went on their run. But to me, aside from that I word, it would only be they would be their worst enemy with the penalties, dumb penalties that they get sometimes, and their turnovers.
Wait, before you go, the reason I asked this question is because I think I resonated with the answer from the show I just mentioned. Is he said that Shannon Dawson was his answer, and he said Shannon Dawson would be the one to get in the way because of how many slow starts that we've had, and what gives the teams literally time to start to adjust to us, and don't just blow them out in the first two quarters, and then you just give them a little bit of a window to come back. It goes back to putting the foot on the throat. But I don't think it's going to happen this year because of what Donno said at the beginning, that Darian Mensah has had the whole offseason in spring where Carson Beck had an injury and couldn't come into the fall. And so his, I guess, adjustment to the offense came in at a later date. And I guess it wasn't fully combined yet. Maybe that's why we saw a delay in the offense in the mid-year. But overall,
think about the playing style as well, right? With Carson, you knew that it was step back and throw. Although he did have the biggest run ever in that Ole Miss game to run into the end zone for the win, but with Carson, you didn't have the threat of him running the ball like you do with Darian. And so it's a different style. I don't think they're going to get off to slow starts because you don't know what to prepare for Miami this year. You did last year. This year, you don't.
Love it.
So we're going to go for Donno, Javier. We're going to go to close this off, a little rapid fire. This is going to be fun. So the first one, who is Miami's MVP?
I'm going to go Mensah.
I'm going to go Fletcher.
All right. Who's the offensive MVP?
I mean, I guess I got to stick with Mensah, right?
And I got to stick with Fletcher.
Defensive MVP.
Ooh, I'm going to go Bryce Fitzgerald. Because I think the interceptions are going to be astronomical.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go the obvious one, the transfer from Missouri, Damian Wilson.
Breakout player.
I'm gonna stick with be consistent from my answer from the start of spring ball. I'm gonna say JJ Dunnigan at defensive back.
Good pick.
But
I'm gonna say
there's a few ways you can go, Javier. There's others.
There is. I think who's gonna have a breakout year is Josiah Moore. I really do. I think he's gonna have a big year.
Most important game.
I'm gonna say Clemson because of the ACC implications.
I agree. Clemson is the big game, the biggest game. Yep.
Toughest opponent.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Biggest trap game.
I'm gonna say Wake Forest.
Ooh,
Early in the
wow.
season on the road, they like, you know, they don't have the talent Miami has, but you know, if you overlook them, and I've heard that like this may not be the case with Miami in town, but I heard it's like hard to play them because of how quiet like they're going to show up to Miami, obviously. So show up for Miami. It's a home game for them.
I think it's Virginia Tech.
I'm gonna go differently, just to go different than Donno, because I think we play them before Notre Dame, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the game before Notre Dame on Halloween? Too. Yeah, on the road.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm gonna say North Carolina.
Most underrated player.
Hold on, I got to think for a second.
Mallory?
I'm most underrated player. You know, I'm gonna say Dalen Upshaw, and I say that only because like I see people on Miami fans on social media who are like mad that he might start, which is crazy to me. Like I'm gonna say Upshaw.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Armando Blunt. I think Armando Blunt's gonna be a stud this year. I think Armando Blunt crushes it this year.
I feel like I know the answer to this, but one player who has the most NFL potential.
I'm gonna say Jackson Cantwell is gonna be a top 3 pick in about 4 years, and there's nothing anyone can do about that.
Potential?
I agree, and I'm gonna say Wilson again. I think Wilson is gonna be a beast in the NFL on that defensive end.
Miami's regular season record.
I go 11-1. And I'm not even sure which one they lose. It's not necessarily Notre Dame, but it's gonna finish 11-1.
Totally agree. 11-1.
Are they ACC champions?
Hell yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Does Miami make the college football playoff?
Yes.
And to finish it off, does Miami win the national championship?
I'm gonna say no, hoping to be wrong.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. I'm gonna say no as well. And then I want you to play this one and say, Donno and Javier, you both were wrong.
Yeah. And it'll be my favorite thing, even being wrong. I will.
That's right.
Donno, Javier, man, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This was awesome. I loved having you guys on. Appreciate you guys. And I hope that everyone enjoyed watching this episode. And we can't wait to get Miami Hurricanes football on the way.
Thank you. Go Canes.
Go Canes.